Yes, everyone, welcome to the third episode then of this Chris Talks Football podcast. Today, I know it might be a bit late, of course, because, all the Premier League and EFL fixtures ended a few days ago, in fact, but better late than never. But then again, Christ above, why don't I hang up the Christmas tree while I'm at it? But, second weekend of Premier League action, and the main big talking point is VAR. Lads, when are we ever going to stop talking about VAR? It was in place at Saturday, the late kickoff between Manchester City and Tottenham, and I thought Manchester City were going to win. But Tottenham did show a good fight and made it 2-2. But the big talking point was VAR, which we'll touch on in a few moments as well. Also, the rest of the top six, apart from Chelsea and Manchester United winning, Arsenal beating Burnley, Liverpool beating Southampton, and that's really it. Also, Sheffield United, 12 years ago was the last time they were in the Premier League. They are back and they won 1-0 against Crystal Palace, so really delighted for them. Also, Bournemouth beating Aston Villa 2-1. Newcastle United, according to some fans, are an absolute shambles. I don't know, guys, about Newcastle. I did say that they were going to stay up, but, when you're letting Teemu Pukki, a lad who failed with Celtic, score a hat-trick against you, you have a lot to work on. We're also going to be talking about the recent racism that's been happening over the last week or so. Yesterday, I think some people were being racist because of, Pogba missing the penalty against Wolves and Tammy Abraham missing the penalty against Liverpool in the Super Cup, which happened last week on Wednesday. So we'll talk more about that. EFL and the European transfer window, which is still open until September. So then, match day 2 of the Premier League happened this weekend, and pretty much VAR has been the main talking point. It was a main talking point last week, and it is also this week, because Manchester City, were they denied a goal? You be the judge. What happened was, I think it was a corner on the left-hand side, which hit an arm of I think it was Laporte, I'm not sure. It hit the arm of Laporte, and then it was tucked home. But obviously, having looked at it closely, it did look like it reached the arm, because I have to say, first time I saw it, I was thinking, I don't think that did. It might reach the side of his head, but then closer look, it did reach the arm, which wasn't quite clear and obvious. But obviously you can't score a goal like that. But VAR obviously was in place at Manchester City against West Ham last weekend, and it's in place this weekend as well. It was as well in the Leicester Wolves game. We're going to talk about Wolves as well, but I think VAR there's going to be a lot more goals where VAR will be given, but obviously I think really it makes it a bit more hollow, Manchester City, because if you remember back to last season, they played Tottenham in the Champions League, and Fernando Llorente scored a goal, and it was, quite clearly came off his arm, and it went in. So why that one was given and why this one wasn't, I think that's why Manchester City fans will feel that the point is hollow, because really, they probably should have had all three, because they did make a few good chances. But I think VAR does have to learn fast, because what happened in the Champions League between City and Tottenham last season wasn't acceptable, really. You can't score a goal with your arm. It comes off pretty much where the muscle is in the arm. So that's why Manchester City were denied place in the semi-finals in the Champions League, if I remember back rightly, last season. But good point for Tottenham, actually, because obviously Tottenham coming to City, I thought that City would win, but no, Tottenham, showed some heart, and with the signings they've made, of course, Lo Celso, Sessegnon, and I think they've signed someone else, Ndombele. Obviously, I said that they were going to be in the top four, and that just solidifies it, because that is a very good point for Spurs. But for Manchester City, I mean, is it an opportunity missed? I mean, I don't think anyone has had 100% record so far. I mean, Arsenal and Liverpool, I think, are the only two teams with a 100% record. So, there you go. So, 2-point head start. Might not be a lot, but it's still a little bit. What else happened? Liverpool beat Southampton by 2-1. Pretty lucky, I would say, because Southampton, I mean, they had fairly good chances, but I was actually watching that game, watching the highlights of that game, and at the last minute, I think it was Danny Ings had a very good chance. How the man did not score, I will never know, but I mean, Danny Ings, the last few years of his career has just been injuries and a little resurgence with Southampton. I mean, he had a decent season last season, but yeah, it's pretty much gone downhill for Danny Ings ever since, and this is pretty much the road to recovery, but he should be tucking that away. We know the quality he is, you know, we saw it in Burnley in the season they went down, but Liverpool got lucky. Adrian playing in goal, of course, there was a little bit of a doubt after the Super Cup, that freak injury. I didn't actually watch the Super Cup, so I don't know how he sustained the injury, but yeah, I think Adrian very lucky to get away with that mistake, but Southampton, with the chances they had, especially in that first half, maybe should have at least gotten a draw out of the game. What else happened this weekend? Right, Newcastle United, they are an absolute shambles, but I'm sorry, you do not spend 40 million. By the way, anyone who did watch that Newcastle game will know what I'm on about. Anyone who spends £40 million on Joelinton, one of the most informed strikers in the Bundesliga last season for Hoffenheim, that chance that he missed, I cannot ignore that chance in the first half. Absolute sitter for a man of his quality. He's been scoring those type of goals at will, but 3-1, lads. Newcastle, what is going on? I mean, what, 60 million? 60, 65, 70 million I think they've spent in the window. And 2 defeats so far. I mean, obviously, I can understand Arsenal. I mean, it would have been mad if they'd come away with the points at Arsenal last weekend. But to Norwich City, I mean, they haven't even spent £1 million yet, Norwich City. But you've got to say, Daniel Farke has done a good job with that Norwich team. Teemu Pukki, is he the best free agent signing of the modern Premier League era? I am not sure. I think he might be, especially if Norwich stay up. I don't think they will stay up, Norwich, but they just have that team spirit, that togetherness. I did see the team sheet today at Carrow Road, and I was seeing the likes of Todd Cantwell and Stiepermann, and I was thinking, wow, Todd Cantwell is a championship player, and Stiepermann was playing Bundesliga 2 football a few years back. So how are they going to do anything against a proven Newcastle side, who are, above all, a well-established Premier League side? But, I mean, lads, come on, Newcastle, you really have to do better. And Steve Bruce is a decent manager, but if he doesn't get results quick, I fear that Newcastle could be down, and I fear that all the Newcastle fans could come on to me if I rant too much about their club. But yeah, I mean, what has gone on? Mike Ashley, 12 years really as owner. I mean, he made a statement of intent the last few months. Of course, they broke their transfer record with Almiron in January, and of course this summer with the likes of Joelinton. But still, I mean, you don't break your transfer record and expect, you expect to at least be moving forward as a club, but not backwards. But that's a good win for Norwich, and proud of them. Another team that has spent heavily in the transfer window is Aston Villa. They spent, I think, 80 million in the transfer window, which closed, I think, 2 weeks back now. And yeah, as always with Aston Villa, they always find a way to absolutely mess it up. And I maintain they're going down. They lost against Bournemouth. I mean, the penalty that Callum Wilson won, I mean, it was a clear penalty. I mean, Tom Heaton did not get any of the ball and got Callum Wilson, so you can tell that that was a penalty. But really, I don't see any way. Aston Villa finishing, I said that they were going to finish second to last. Norwich will be bottom, and Burnley will be in the bottom three as well. Speaking of Burnley, they managed to lose 2-1, although Ashley Barnes has now got 3 goals in 2 games. Pretty decent. But Arsenal, I mean, lads, what's going on? Reece Nelson, Willock, they've got some good youth coming on at Arsenal. So, you know, I don't want to jinx anything to any Arsenal fans watching, but, you know, could this be the start of the resurgence? I mean, years of finishing 4th and in the Europa League, could this be the season you finally make it into 3rd place? Because I don't see you coming near Liverpool and City, but I don't know. Arsenal, shock me. Do something, do a Leicester City. Not win the title, but just shock me. Try and push the likes of City and Liverpool all the way. Because really, Unai Emery, of course, 2nd season, he is a winner. I mean, he's won the Europa League loads of times with Sevilla. He's a good manager, and I've always said that Unai Emery was the right choice for Arsenal because of his record, especially in the Europa League, which is the competition that Arsenal will be contesting this year. But and this just proves it. I think they're in the Europa League this season. I think they will win it this time. They got battered 4-1 by Chelsea, but of course Chelsea are going to be in the Champions League. Oh dear, Frank Lampard's going to have quite a tough time as Chelsea manager. Although, speaking of Chelsea, 1-1 against Leicester City, that second half performance by Leicester, they should have won the game. They should have won the game, Leicester. They know it. And it was a good chance, but to be honest, Wolves against Leicester, I did see them getting a point out of that. So, you know, that was a good game. But I did not certainly see them getting a point out of Chelsea. But obviously, Wilfred Ndidi made up for the mistake. And, you know, Leicester just got some good players coming through their ranks, of course. But, yeah, Chelsea, I think, will be disappointed. And quite lucky that they held on for a draw because they didn't play up to their best. But I tell you what happened when they faced Liverpool in the Super Cup, which is what I'm going to talk about now. They were, I think, at their best. They played really well. I mean, you know, both sides had, I think, 4 days to recover. Chelsea, you could argue, had, you know, the most to lose because they were battered 4-0 away from home at United on the Sunday. But to go on the Wednesday, 2 days after, and, you know, put in a decent performance against Liverpool, take them to penalties, that's a good job, well done. And yeah, Chelsea, I think if Frank Lampard does get them going, I think they'll still finish in the Europa League. I think the Champions League will be a step up for the Chelsea team. Although Mason Mount today showed a shade of a young Frank Lampard, but whatever happens, if Frank Lampard does endure a sticky spell with Chelsea, for example, last season Maurizio Sarri, you know, they lost 4-0 to Bournemouth and then 6-0 to Manchester City, and they didn't sack him. If the same thing happens to Frank Lampard, do not sack him, because after that transfer ban, you know, ends, he will be the manager to take them forward. I guarantee it. Sheffield United. What a day it was for them on Sunday. 1-0, John Lundstrom with a goal. And if I'm honest, the last time Sheffield United were in the Premier League, most of you guys were 4 or 5 years old. So, you know, that's how long ago it was. But yeah, massive credit to Chris Wilder. Sheffield United again. Crystal Palace, they started Zaha. Zaha was kept quiet by Sheffield United. I mean, lads, the rise of Sheffield United. 16-17, this club were a League One side. They were, their strikers were on loan from the Championship. And now look where they are, 4 points from 2 games. And they've had some tough opposition. Bournemouth and Crystal Palace are going to finish mid-table. And to take 4 points out of 6, they've got the same amount of points as the champions of England. Madness. Chris Wilder's done a good job. But for Crystal Palace, I mean, they haven't scored so far. So that's a bit of a worry for Roy Hodgson. But I think Crystal Palace will start playing again. Because if you remember back to a few seasons ago, Roy Hodgson came in and steadied the ship. So, I think Crystal Palace will be comfortably mid-table. But Sheffield United as well will survive in this league. They won't go down. Everton 1, Watford 0. Everton, doing what they did in the Marco Silva derby, in quotation marks. What else? Danny Welbeck made his first Watford appearance this season. I think he is going to be a decent signing for Watford because he is, still only 28. So he's got, at least half a decade more in full Danny Welbeck mode, pre-Arsenal, of course. But, I think Danny Welbeck will be a good signing for Watford. But, of course, Watford, another team, they haven't scored and they've conceded 4 already. I've always maintained that Watford's defence isn't the greatest. And I think in the January transfer window, I think they will be in and around that relegation fight. I put Watford 17th. So, 17th rather, 16th rather, not 17th. I put them 16th, but they need to invest on a young, decent defender. I mean, midfield and attacking options are alright, but they do have an aging back line, and, not investing will only make it worse for them. West Ham United went away to Brighton and drew. To be honest, it was a bit of a rehab for West Ham after a 5-0 battering at the hands of the champions, Manchester City. But, they did play well. Javier Hernandez got on the score sheet. But you've got to say that Brighton got away with a few there because West Ham, did assert themselves in the game. But, again, Brighton and West Ham mid-table. Brighton, I think, will be 15th. West Ham will come 10th. They'll be a mid-table side. Sebastian Haller and Fornals, the two big signings, they haven't really got going yet. But obviously, hopefully in the coming weeks, West Ham will get them going. Because, of course, Haller is a really good talent at 24, 25 years of age, I think he was. But, I think he'll be a good striker for them. Brighton, Trossard, he looks like he's a very dangerous player, Trossard. So I think defences will be quite wary for him. If he wants to, wear out defences, he will be a key and integral part of that side. Now on to, I think, the main talking point, and that is the racism that has been, circling the football media over the past week. Tammy Abraham experienced racism from a fan after he was the player who missed the penalty in the penalty shootout that won Liverpool the Super Cup. My opinions on racism, I don't think it will ever go away. Last season, all the debacle about Sterling and the Chelsea fans that were banned for racism, the England against Montenegro game in the qualifiers for the European Championships, there was racism there. And I just don't think racism will ever really go away in football. I think a prime example of this is in Russia. Malcolm, who was at Barcelona last season, he signed for Zenit St. Petersburg for, I think, £41 million. And Zenit St. Petersburg have a history of not signing black players. The only black players they've signed in the last half a century rather, have been Hulk and Axel Witsel, who now plays for Borussia Dortmund, and they experienced racism, even though, they had two really good players. Hulk, at his time, battered in a lot of goals for Zenit St. Petersburg, and Axel Witsel now plays for one of the most exciting teams in Europe in Borussia Dortmund, who could, dethrone Bayern Munich. But, Yeah, I mean, Malcolm, to go there is just an absolute. It's. I was gonna say it's a suicidal move, but it's not obviously because it is a good club, Zenit. I'm not sure if they're going to be in the Champions League though, but yeah, I mean Malcolm, obviously at Bordeaux, everyone was hyping him up. Oh, he's going to be a very good player. Barcelona. The thing with Barcelona is they just have too many options up front. I mean, obviously they've offloaded Malcolm and Coutinho this week. They've sent Coutinho on loan at Bayern, which I think is a good move. I think is a good move because really, Robben has retired and Coutinho will pretty much fill the void really of Robben. He's even been given his number 10 shirt, so I think that's how you know that he's going to be a replacement for one of the deadliest wingers in world football in his prime in Ian Robben. But yeah, Tammy Abraham, I think advice to Tammy Abraham is just don't listen to it really. I mean, racism might have an effect on certain people, but I think you look at the quality that Tammy Abraham possesses. He's a good championship striker. You know, he's played some games as well this season. He's been pretty much Chelsea's one of their main strikers. I know they've only played 3 games, but still, he's been one of their main strikers, and I think will be as long as this transfer ban is, put on Chelsea. So, it's hard, but I think Tammy Abraham is a good player and he just needs to rise above it. Paul Pogba, last night, of course, Paul Pogba experienced racism because he missed a penalty against Wolves. I mean, the fans really these days are just, I don't really know what to call them really, because when they're just shouting and throwing racist abuse at you, it just makes you want to, not be on that pitch. I mean, a lot of black players over the last couple of years have experienced racism. I mean, it's just not doing well for football, and it's an ugly side to the game because, at the end of the day, we're just, we're competing for one thing. Pogba, Jesse Lingard, Marcus Rashford, Manchester United as a whole are competing for one thing, and that's to win the Premier League. So, to have racist abuse thrown at you is very disheartening, and I don't think any player will recover 100%, I think, from racist abuse, and it will stay with them. But I think the FA really have to do something about it now. I think, it doesn't really matter where you're from. You can be white, black, you can be from any country in the world. I mean, I really don't care because really, I do not think of footballers by the colour of their skin or by their ethnicity or by the way they look or whatever. I just, for them, it's their feet that does the talking, really, not their personality or the colour of their skin. You shouldn't go and judge a player because of their skin colour. Oh, Paul Pogba missed a penalty. All right, big deal. I think most of the Manchester United players have missed a penalty either in training or in a real life game at some point. So it's that feeling, that emotion that they all know, and that's why when a penalty is missed, you often see teammates, encouraging and giving them support because you need to learn from those mistakes and know not to do it the next time. But I think for footballers, the only thing for racism to stop, I think if you ignore it and just play on. I mean, Paul Pogba was once the world's most expensive player. He cannot let racism take away everything that he's done. This man has won multiple league titles with Juventus. He's gotten to a Champions League final. I don't think he will ever do that with Manchester United. So, to have a bunch of fans question his ability by the colour of his skin is just absolutely pathetic, and it won't stop, and hopefully these fans will be banned or be reprimanded or something else, but there's no room for that in the game, and hopefully it will stop by this year because it's 2019. Right, enough about racism. Let's turn our attention to the EFL in the Championship. Well, really the big game, really the big game in the Championship was Wigan Athletic against Leeds United, really. Leeds United have been involved sometimes in these big games in the Championship. and they managed to beat Wigan by 2-0, which cements their position at the, I think, high end of the top of the table as well. West Brom, they managed to beat Luton Town by 2-1 away. Millwall kept up. Millwall ended Sheffield Wednesday's unbeaten start 1-0 as well. Charlton's unbeaten start has carried on, but their winning start rather has been ended by Barnsley 2-2. And Stoke City and Derby County, two clubs who really should think about going for promotion, they finished 2-2 in the draw. In League One, Bury's game again has been postponed, and there's a few hours ago, Steve Dale, who's the owner of Bury, has not sold the club still. They do not have long before they have to, go to the EFL about financial agreements, and if they don't agree, they will be expelled from the Football League, and that'll be sad. That'll be very sad for Bury, because they've been in the Football League for a long time. I think they were one of the first few founders of the Football League. I think, I have no idea, but it will be sad. Bolton Wanderers, of course, in administration. First time in a while that a football club has been placed in administration. The last football club to go in administration, as long as I can remember, were Aldershot Town, and they're in the National League now. But yeah, 3 senior outfield players. This is just an under-18 side, really, for Bolton Wanderers. 5-0 against a newly promoted Tranmere Rovers side. That is embarrassing, and I know, they are on, I think, minus 11 points. It's, even if Bury, do get the opportunity to play games, they'll still go down, along with Bolton, and it will be so sad, because Bolton, I don't know, a decade and a half ago, they were getting results against Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich, one of the best teams in Europe for as long as I can remember. But it's sad to see where they'll go, and really it's like a Luton Town situation, because Luton Town, they fell from the Championship all the way to non-league. They got back up. With Bolton, they've been in the Premier League, and now they've fallen. They're going to be in League 2 next season, 100%. Bar an absolute miracle happening at Bolton Wanderers, then they're going to be in League 2 next season. And the last time they were in the Premier League, I believe, was 2012. If you told Bolton Wanderers fans 8 years later that they'd be in administration and in League 2, I think that just sums it up, really. Also in League 1, Lincoln City, what a start they've had. 3 wins out of 3, top of the league. Danny Cowley, I've said it time and time and again, how he is not at a Championship club ceases to beg me. Blackpool as well, they are going guns blazing as well. They're doing well in League 1. So, yeah, hopefully, Blackpool can get back to the Championship where they belong. Coventry City as well, they're playing their games at St Andrews now this season because of their ongoing negotiations with their stadium. Sunderland and Portsmouth. Sunderland beat Portsmouth by 2-1. That's a good win for Sunderland. Again, I expect Sunderland to be in that promotion hunt. In League 2, Bradford City managed to beat Oldham 3-0. Mansfield beat Carlisle 2-0. Forest Green Rovers managed to beat Grimsby 1-0. Leyton Orient and Stevenage held a goalless draw at Brisbane Road. Newport managed to beat Plymouth Argyle. And Macclesfield, Sol Campbell departed the club due to its financial irregularities, and they managed to win away from home, unbelievably, 2-1 against Northampton Town. So that is a very good result for them. But yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. It's a little roundup of all the results I had on the weekend and my takes on everything. Just to leave you off, my opinions on Bayern Munich signing Coutinho on loan. Again, it's a good signing for them. They should be challenging for the title now they've got a high-profile signing. Yeah, I think just let his feet do the talking. We know he's a quality player from his days at Liverpool. And, yeah, he can hold it. But there is a rumour, I'm not sure if it's true, but there is a rumour that Jadon Sancho, who's at Borussia Dortmund, is certain, in quotation marks, to leave Borussia Dortmund next season. We don't know if it's true. If anyone does have a lead on that, tell me and I will mention it in future episodes. But yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy it. If you did, leave a like, drop a comment and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And as always, I will talk to you later.